What is a podcast audit and why would you need one? This is what we're talking about today, so let's get right to it. Hey y'all, Crystal here today, and we are talking about a podcast audit. Now, what is that? What does that even look like? So in 2021, I offered podcast audits for members of our community. If you have not joined us in our free Facebook group, I invite you to come hang out with us. We have over 1,000 podcasters that are in there trying to start, launch, and market their shows. And it's just a great community if you're looking for a group of people that are on the same podcasting journey as you are. But I used to offer these monthly podcast audits for a few months, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from being a podcast coach, but I also learned a lot about how we can look at our shows and audit our own information. So I wanted to share with you a quick clip on what a podcast audit is, and then we're going to chat about it later. So check out this clip. Naomi is here. So Planners on Purpose podcast. Now, we have her artwork. Oh, I love it. It's so bright. It's so bright. All right, Naomi, so happy that you applied. This is going to be a lot of fun. So the Planners on Purpose podcast. Her topic is event planning, coaching, and business strategies. Her ideal listener is event planners and anyone that plans event for their businesses. Ooh, okay. So this is really good. This is good. So she's not talking to someone who is trying to plan an event, meaning like a bride or someone who's like wants to throw a birthday party. She's talking to the planners about their businesses. Okay, this is very smart and it's very niche in that it's more specific to the people that are in charge of the event planning. So I like this. I like this, Naomi. She's launched her podcast. And then why are you submitting your podcast to be audited? To get additional tips for me for being a better podcaster. Also to get a little validation that I'm headed in the right direction. I uploaded only the first 5 minutes of my show. Okay, first, before we get into more of the audio, I would recommend, and I don't know if it's just my laptop speakers that make it sound a little louder than it is, but my initial reaction in listening to your intro, which I love, by the way, I always like it when someone else is doing the intro. It's like, oh, it's legit. It's official. But I feel like the music is a little loud because it's kind of hard to hear the announcer's voice when he's talking and introducing you. Again, it could just be because I'm listening on my laptop speakers and that's the way that it just sounds really loud. But that would be the first thing. If maybe you could just turn down the volume on the back end if you have like this audio file. I'm imagining like two separate files, right? You have your voice on top and the music on the bottom. If you could just take this one and lower it just slightly, and then when they play, it will be just a little bit quieter. That would be my only recommendation for that. So let's keep going. Okay, so I want to get into, and Naomi, I love that the storytelling aspect of your podcast is awesome. I think that it's fantastic. Like it was barely even 2 minutes, right? I don't know how long your intro was, if it was a full 30 seconds, but like a minute and a half into you talking on your podcast, I feel like I know you. I'm like, oh, Naomi, she's in Wisconsin. Oh my gosh, her family loves, going out back for fire pits, and maybe they like, roasting marshmallows or hanging outside. Like I'm thinking of my own experiences, right? Because this is what we tend to do is whenever we hear someone else tell a story, we think about, well, how does that relate to me? And I was immediately transported to like, we do bonfires. Not anymore. I don't do those because I don't live in the country. But when I was growing up in the country, we did bonfires a lot. If somebody would have a big pasture like out and back, and we would, all of their brush that they had been like just loading onto this pile for months and months, all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're going to set it on fire. And I sound so country now. I said that out loud, but no, that's what it makes me, like it helps me understand, like you stated, what y'all were going to talk about. You're going to talk about the 3 myths of mental health that you wanted to address. You're bringing up mental health as something that's important to you, and you're acknowledging that it's Mental Health Awareness Month. I really like where this is going. So if you wanted some validation that you're headed in the right direction, I mean, in a minute and a half, I could tell you you are. You are. I think that you're doing a great job connecting with your audience and bringing the humanity of your podcast into play. So yes, I have to agree. You are on the right track. And now we are going to go into sharing the chartable information, that I found on your podcast. So Naomi Tucker, and then you have these titles. I'm assuming it has, something to do with what you do with your party planning. I don't know what these letters mean, but I'm assuming that someone who would be a potential listener of yours, they would think that that is important. So I like that. So like I'm thinking certified master planner. I don't know if that's what it is, but it sounds like a cool title. So I'm giving it to you. You're honorary certified master planner. If you don't already have that title, I don't know what that means, but I love it. And then you have it down here. So I'm assuming that that is a title that is important to your listener, or maybe it's a title even that your listener is aspiring to have one day. So yeah, this is really cool. So let's go into the Planners on Purpose podcast is created for ambitious and driven event planners that are looking to scale their productivity, get valuable time back in their day, and focus on their personal goals and aspirations. Very awesome podcast description. Very, very good. I mean, we're only through the first sentence. We only went through the first sentence of that. I love this so much because you're calling out it's for ambitious and driven event planners. So am I an event planner? Will I one day be an event planner? Is this something that is kind of like in the back of my mind that I think I might want to get into, like event planning eventually? Then this podcast would be for me. So you're calling out who your audience would be, and but it's also serious ones that are looking to scale their productivity, get valuable time back in their day, and focus on their personal goals and aspirations. So, I mean, I feel like a good little, I wish I had like one of those, I need to get some GIFs and like other fun things that I can put up on my video. That would be like confetti, because this is really good. This is really good. I like this. So if you want to stress less to live more, Naomi will take you on a journey of self-discovery. She will help you to uncover your hidden strengths as a leader, become more productive so you can live the life you desire while balancing your commitments. This is really good, and I believe that you have probably done some work to get these real like buzzwords, keywords that you have in here, because I feel like it's very strategic the way that you wrote this out. She will help you uncover your hidden strengths as a leader, because you're trying to target those people that are serious about event planning and they want to lead. Maybe they want to lead in their business, in their community, maybe even in their industry, because I know as event planners, I mean, there's so many. There's corporate events, there's bridal parties, there's special events like anniversaries and like all kinds of things like that. So I can imagine that you have really done your homework on knowing that the people that you want to target see themselves as leaders. So uncover your hidden strengths as a leader, become more productive so you can live the life you desire while balancing your commitments. Yeah. And I can imagine people that are event planners feel overwhelmed or feel like they got to do all the things. Oh my God. I was taken back to planning my own wedding and all the things that were in, thank goodness for event planners. Thank goodness, because I would have not been able to do all of that by myself, or even with the help of my mom and all the other people that helped us plan our wedding. Okay, so we have your ratings and reviews here, and then we have the 3 myths you should know about mental health. So this is really good, but my question is, are you tying back mental health into event planning, right? Because we didn't listen to the whole episode that you have. But I'm going to click in here to go into the kind of the nuts and bolts of the episode description for this. Okay, so the conversation around mental health should be elevated and discussed. In this episode, you have the 3 myths you should know about mental health and what to do with them. Understanding these bring important conversations forward. So I think that this is a really good conversation for you to bring forth on your podcast, because it's something that obviously you're very, I guess, what's the word? I don't know if it's passionate about it, if you're passionate about mental health, or like you're an advocate for other people who, maybe need more light brought to mental health. So I like this, but I would want to know is, in this description, does it tie back to the main purpose of your podcast? Right? Like if you, like in this description, if you could put something like, if you understand mental health, or how seeking mental health as an event planner, or as someone who has a lot of priorities, or someone who is trying to be more productive, then really understanding how it applies back to the overarching thing of your podcast would be something I would want to see in the description. Now, that as a caveat to that, I know your listeners, they don't care. They probably don't. Your listeners are loving the content that you're putting out because you are the one doing it. Maybe they're like, oh my gosh, like I know that Naomi is super passionate about helping us, and she's giving us resources to help us with our mental health. Like this is even better. But as someone who is just stumbling upon your podcast and one of your most recent episodes, I would ask the question, well, how does this tie back into the main theme? How does this tie back into being an event planner or hoping to one day become an event planner? Like going back to who you said you were targeting, event planners, coaches, and business strategies. Like these are the things that you're doing. Event planners and anyone that wants to plan events for their business. So that would be my question. And it's also one of those you're like, Crystal, this was just something that was important to me. I wanted to put it out there. That's fantastic. But this is just my initial question as your coach, right? Like as your coach and looking at this is, how does this all tie back into your overarching theme? And that's something that I would encourage everybody to think about, that if you're going to go off the beaten path, because I mean, you've heard me talk about things on my podcast that don't necessarily have direct correlations to podcasting, like on the surface, but I tie them together. You've got to anchor everything that you talk about on your show back to your main theme. Okay, like I know if I had an opportunity, let's see, I'm trying to think of someone, podcasting is kind of one of those subjects. Like if I was to talk about, I was thinking like Brene Brown. I love Brene Brown as an author, and the different things that she teaches is really amazing. And I've learned a lot of really cool things from her. But on the surface, that doesn't really relate back to podcasting. But it does, because she has podcasts now. Do you see what I'm saying? Like everybody has a podcast now. So it's like, oh, okay, I could tie those, 2 things back together. But I would recommend whatever topics you cover on your podcast to have them tie back into your main theme, even if it's on a very small level, like very, very granular, like people could probably almost miss it and like not even hear that piece of it, but still enjoy the content. Tie it back to that main theme. Always, always, always. How does it tie back? How does it tie back? And I know you probably explained it in the actual episode, but adding some of those words to the description would have me like further understand as a brand new listener, as someone who's just stumbling upon your podcast. I can see, oh, she's talking about this because this is a theme. She talks about, things that she's passionate about, but she ties it all back into event planning. So that would be my suggestions, my recommendations. So I hope that you found that clip helpful. But what I really want to point out is the fact that it always helps to have a fresh pair of eyes on your content. So if you've never had someone kind of take a look at what you have going on, whether it's your processes or the way that you create your content or how you set things up months ago, right? This is a really, really big point. I will talk to people, and this has happened in my own podcasting journey too, where I'll talk to someone and I'll point something out. Maybe it's like a piece of information that you have to upload when you're first getting your podcast going, right? You're launching, you're putting your podcast information in your settings or podcast description, whatever it is. Then you go back and you read it months later and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot I did it like that. I had told myself I'm going to go back and update that information. This happens a lot more often than you think. So this is kind of your reminder to check in with all of your podcast information from time to time, whether it's looking at the SEO that you're doing or the keyword research that you said you were going to do. Why don't we make it this is the year that you're going to get your SEO, your search engine optimization, and your keywords in check for your podcast. So tell me in the comments what questions you have about podcast audits and if you want your show to be audited. But what I really wanted to share in today's video is I'm giving away podcast audits, like an expert level podcast audit to members of the Potty People Co-op. This is my group coaching program where I walk you through 6 weeks of podcast coaching with fellow podcasters, and I'm giving you expert level feedback. I'm actually going to comb through every nook and cranny of your podcast, from your workflow, your processes, to your marketing campaigns, to how you promote yourself either on your website or social media or your email. And if you're like, I don't have any of those, Crystal, well, that's fantastic because I'm going to help you go through plans and strategies to set them in place. I want this year to be the year of your podcast. So if you're watching this video and you're like, man, I would love for Crystal to take a look at my podcast and tell me if I'm on the right track or not, make sure you go to crystalproffitt.com/waitlist to find out more information about when the Potty People Co-op doors are opening next. It's not something that we offer year round, so check back regularly to see when we are enrolling members in this program. Again, go to crystalproffitt.com/waitlist to get your opportunity to have your podcast audited by me. But that's all I have for you today. So make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe below. That way you don't miss our future videos all about podcasting and running your online business. Make sure you check out these other videos right here that will help you in your podcasting journey. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.